The Florida Gators have fallen again, losing this time to the Texas A&M Aggies by a score of 34-17. It wasn't pretty. The Gators just doing a number of different things throughout the course of the game that make the loss feel and seem even worse than it does appear on paper. We're going to talk about all that today. First things first, I'm your host, Neal Shulman. Welcome back to the All Kinds of Weather Forecast. I probably should have put that part first, but it's very late at night. Neal Shulman here at All Kinds of Weather on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Neal. He's Adrian. Adrian Perez at ADNDEL on Twitter/X. Also runs the Gator Diamond Pod handle there. Fall ball has begun, so if you're into Gator stickball, definitely be sure to give that account a follow. Again, that is at Gator Diamond Pod on Twitter. First things first, got to get to some sponsor shout-outs. Got to talk about our sponsor, 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it's savings for your child's college, investment advice, or even just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, please contact them, 866-998-5879, or visit their website, 401kgeneration.com. All right, Adrian, this game was disgusting in a number of different fashions. There were some positives we'll talk about momentarily. We do talk positives first. That is our thing here. So let's start with that. What stuck out to you that gave you some hope that this team might be capable of reaching a bowl game? Because that seems to be the ceiling for this team. What did you like from this game? I know it's hard.
Why are you making me go first on this one? This ain't fair. Okay, how about this? How about they came out in 11 personnel a few times there, and it looked good. I mean, heck, you had your best playmakers out on the field. You had a lineup with Sturdivant, I believe Wilson, or sometimes Wilson, Dallas, and Vernell, VB3. 11 personnel. Get your best wide receivers out there. Make some plays. So that looked promising. Somewhere there's a alternate universe with an offensive coordinator that can make this offense just hum with the talent on it. Unfortunately, we're not living in that universe, Neal.
No, we're not. We're not living in the universe where anything is really going right for Gator football. We can talk positives more fluently and more freely when we get to talking about Gator basketball. Ken Palm rankings just dropped. Gators are ranked number 2 in the preseason Ken Palm rankings, so that should be a fun season. I've got my flights booked to New York City to see the Gators and UConn in the Jimmy V Classic, so it should be a lot of fun times talking about that. But this is football season right now, and the positives are few and far between. I'll shout out Aaron Childs, 9 total tackles, 4 solo. I liked what we saw from Amir Jackson, obviously the touchdown catch, but did have a few plays where he was in pass pro, and when he was asked to do it very, very infrequently, it seemed like he did his job satisfactorily. We're not going to shout him out for being a pass pro expert in this game, but he seemed to at least hold his own for a freshman, at least by freshman standards. So Aaron Childs, Amir Jackson, nice shout outs there, nice positives there as well. Amir Jackson, of course, only caught that one ball, and after that did not catch another ball the rest of the way. So that is what that is. But hey, Vernell Brown, nice day, 6 catches, 77 yards. J. Michael Sturdivant hauled in a long one, actually 2 long ones, 2 catches for 53 yards, catches of 27 and 26 yards on the day for him. We got Trey Wilson back, got some nice stuff from him, got that guy with the yak on the back of his jersey plate, so 3 catches for 45. Liked that from him. That's about where the positives end. I guess you could say the defense did not completely melt down in the second half after it felt like they were on their way to doing that in the first half. That's about where the positives end for Florida. I will give one more shout out to Trace Mack for hitting a long field goal despite being fed the laces on the hold. So good job by him. I think the snap was high, to be completely fair. The snap was not great. Holder did a good job just even getting the ball down, but still feeding smack laces, and smack hitting the kick from, I think, 44, 45 yards out is impressive. That's about where the positives end. This was gross. This game ended 34-17. It could have easily been a lot worse than that. Marcel Reed throwing a ball in the end zone. I'm not sure what he thought he was looking at there. I don't know if he thought it was just man-to-man. There was no safety. Jordan Castell just easily picking that off. But that should have been 7 more points for the Aggies on the board. And this could have easily been a 20-plus point loss. Even if that's just thrown away, it's a field goal and it's a 20-point loss. So Aggies left some meat on the bones, as you like to say, Adrian. This was really bad. So I'll let you get the first stab at the negatives since I threw you under the bus and gave you the first stab at the positives. I know this is going to come a lot easier for you. Have at it. Go for it. Let us know what you're thinking.
We'll just go offense, defense first, and then we'll start offense. The whole game was just the dichotomy between this game and the one they just previously played 7 days ago was unbelievable, right? They dominated Texas on both sides of the lines of scrimmage. And in this game, they were thoroughly dominated, especially on the offensive line of scrimmage. I mean, the offensive line just put a embarrassing performance. The left tackle, Barber, probably had the worst game of his life. I mean, I never saw him playing Pop Warner, but I'm sure he was probably pretty dominant. And since he's been in college football.
0.0 PFF pass pro grade.
I saw that. But we've had other guys do that too, right?
That's the third time this year.
Yeah.
Roderick Kearney and Bryce Lovett, both against the Miami Hurricanes. Wow. So this is the third time this year Florida has had an offensive lineman finish a game with a perfect 0.0 pass blocking grade. Look, PFF is not perfect, but it's ballpark accurate. And when you finish 0.0, it's not good.
Nah, not at all. But besides just the offensive line, right? Then Texas A&M, for some reason, they came out playing man single high safety, and DJ started to shred them up. Although Florida did blink first, people think that Florida went touchdown. No, Florida did have to punt in that second drive, but in the third drive, Florida still gets a touchdown. But then after that, Elko made the adjustment, switched to a zone. And, like I said after the USF game, Neal, the reason why I was so down after the USF game, and I keep coming back down to that, right? Because I saw some issues, and I felt that Billy was not good enough to help DJ. And DJ, for whatever reason, rustiness, injuries, was not good enough to help Billy. And that played itself out in this game perfectly, right? Billy Napier could not do anything to help DJ handle that zone. And it's been like that now the entire season. DJ just cannot read defenses very well. Man up, DJ, he will shred you up probably, especially with this receiving core. You play zone, which is what Elko did after those 2 touchdown drives, and it was curtains. That's it, man. It was lights out. So that's pretty much the offensive side of the ball. That's what it just came down to. Defense, Neal, and I keep coming back down to this, man. It's hard to play defense. It is a man's game on defense, man. You have to have the will against someone else who is trying to bury you. And it's tough to come in every week and play to your capabilities, especially when you're playing against an offensive line, veteran offensive line like Texas A&M. You're going up against the schedule that Florida's going up against. And they just got pretty much handled on the defensive line. All the guys we gave kudos to last week, Brian Taylor Jr., Sapp, Gums, almost invisible this entire game. And like I was afraid of, Florida's best defensive games are behind them. Okay? From here on out, this is probably more of the defensive type of performance you're going to see. And the last thing that I'll leave you with this is that first play for Texas A&M was exactly what we talked about last week, man. How Texas had all these wide receivers running open in the secondary. Arch just missed them. He either missed them or he wouldn't pull the trigger on them.
He didn't see
Okay?
them. He missed the throw, or he missed seeing them wide open.
Exactly. First play from scrimmage, man, Marcel Reed just nails you for a 60, 70 yarder. Bryce Thornton and Castell got just roasted. They have Mario Craver bracketed, but Castell is only like 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. Now, he's not a cornerback. He's a safety. So if he's playing that defense, man, you better be prepared to, start taking some back pedals really quick. Instead, when the ball snaps, he takes 3 steps forward. He takes 3 steps forward, already being 10 yards from the line of scrimmage with no one behind him. And Mario Craver just roasted him right off the bat, man. So it's kind of like what we were afraid of, right? The secondary was eventually going to get exposed. And if you're not putting any pressure on the quarterback, then that's going to be some of the results. And then Florida gets lucky. When it's all said and done, the defense gets lucky. And we talked about this on a previous episode also, that the defense was good, but by no means were they, one of the best defenses in the country or of all time. Because what offenses are figuring out, opposing offenses, is we could go vanilla on these guys. We don't got to, take much chances. Okay, Miami figured that out. Texas A&M went pretty much 4-minute offense with like a quarter and a half left because they knew that the Florida offense was dead in the water. So there was no reason to keep Marcel Reed having to take shots downfield. Might those shots have been there? Who knows? Probably. But once a team's going up, a couple scores on us, they're shutting it down, man. They are shutting it down. So expect to see that, moving forward also. So that's pretty much my sum up, man.
Yeah, couple things there. I'll address them, I guess, in reverse order. Number one, the last thing you just said about being up a couple scores, you triggered a thought in my head, and I remember this game. Actually, full circle story here. Florida hosts Mississippi State next week. This makes me think of the last time Mississippi State comes to Gainesville, the game that they win 10-7, that sets football back 150 years. They don't throw a single pass the entire second half of that game. After they score a touchdown and a field goal, Chris Relf goes in for like a 5-yard score. Derek DePasquale hits a field goal. It's 10-0 in the first quarter, and they're done scoring. They don't score again the rest of the way. Dan Mullen, who is their head coach at the time, does not care to try to score any more points. He just runs the ball, runs the whole second half out. He sends Florida a message. He says to Florida offensive coordinator Steve Adazio, who at this point is the second worst, not the worst anymore. Congratulations, Steve. You're now the second worst offensive coordinator in Florida Gators history. But Dan Mullen tells Adazio, you know what? I don't think you can score 10 points the rest of the game, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to test my theory by just running the ball and trying to bleed out the entire second half. Florida couldn't do it. Florida could only score 7, wound up losing that game 10-7. Almost every single game of this season, whenever Florida goes down by 2 scores, feels like the exact same thing. They're sending Florida a message. I don't believe that you can score 2 touchdowns on us. Forget the fact that I don't think you can outscore us by 2 touchdowns the rest of the way. I don't think you can score 2 touchdowns the rest of the way, period. That's the first thing. And it's insulting. The Florida Gators, fun and gun, Steve Spurrier, Danny Werfel. You got Shane Matthews, the OG GOAT, under Steve Spurrier. And then from there, you get Jesse Palmer for a year. You get Rex Grossman. Then you get the Tebow years with Urban Meyer. Even freaking Will Grier. Even with Will Grier, you had the offensive pulse that Gator fans loved for at least just that one game plus 1 quarter of Tennessee. But Florida Gators are known for offense. Of course, then Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney, Trayvon Grimes. The Gators are known for their offense, for the offensive explosions. It is insulting to watch other teams do this to the Florida Gators week in and week out and challenge them and have that challenge not be met. That's the first thing. The second thing you're talking about with Jordan Castell. Adrian, you played baseball, obviously, as a kid. I did too. played a little bit of center field and left field, and we're talking about the football terminology of playing center field as a safety. Adrian, when you see the ball come off the bat as an outfielder, what's the first step you're supposed to take? What direction is it supposed to be in? Back, right? Jordan Castell is not doing that as the center fielder on this Florida Gator defense. What happens? He gets roasted. There is some overlap here between football and baseball. We're going to shout out the Gator Diamond Pod more and more as we go along with our two-man shows here, but that is a good segue into baseball season. If you're going to be a center fielder, you've got to know your first step is going to be back. If that's the role you're going to play, right? We're not talking about if he is supposed to come up and press or jam. We're talking about Jordan Castell being told you are the center fielder on this play. The first step you have to take, back behind you. Not what happens. He gets roasted. All right. Let's talk drive.
By the way, one more thing. For Florida to not have gone into the portal and bring in an experienced safety is just malpractice. I know that you had recruited Lagonzo Hayward and Drake Stubbs. I get it.
They're freshmen.
You know, you went into the season. You lost. Who was the kid that they lost? Smith, who ended up transferring? Gregory Smith, right?
To North Carolina.
You ended up losing him. I know that they tried to bring in one guy that they ended up losing, I think, to Miami. Go figure. But you had to bring in an experienced safety. You had to. And to not do that, man, just another reason why.
Malpractice. It's what we call the off-season L's. Yep. It's an off-season loss for Billy Napier as this program CEO. So with that said, let's now talk about the on-field L's that he's taken. Let's go again to my least favorite part of this, but we have to do it, the drive chart. Let's go. All right. Touchdown. First drive of the game, pre-scripted, but fine. Touchdown. 3 and out. Touchdown again. 3 and out. 1 first down and a punt. 1 first down and a punt again. 1 first down and a punt for a third time in a row. Fumble on a 3rd and 16 screen pass that was never going to get the first down anyway. Field goal. 3 and out. 1 first down and a punt. 1 first down and then a turnover on downs. Then DJ Lagway is strip sacked on the first play of the next drive for a second lost fumble on the night, and then the game ends. That's just not good. Like, there's no other way to slice it. That's just not a pretty drive chart, and it is compounded by the drive charts we've rattled off in the previous weeks after losses to South Florida, to LSU, and to Miami. Now, there were reasons for that. Austin Barber, not a good night. We talked about it. You talked about it. But this is the point where if Florida had a competent head coach, which I know they don't, but this is the point in the show in which I would talk about how could we have had a running back step in to chip away at Cassius Howell, because Austin Barber clearly needs help, and the answer is not just to bench him. There's no one better on the bench, so you got to do something to help him out. So who do you have to trust in pass pro as a running back? Do you trust Jaden Ball? Is Katie Daniels the better blocking running back? Or should we have had Amir Jackson or Hayden Hansen over there? I mean, Hansen clearly is the blocking tight end, right? Clearly he's not the athletic pass-catching tight end. We had that last year in Arliss Boardingham and ran him off. Now it's Amir Jackson. So that's what he's here for. He's here to block. Or do we trust Amir Jackson to help chip away at Cassius Howell or Tyreek Chappelle for A&M coming off the edge? Because leaving Jackson in the game does somewhat give us a passing threat here. Again, top 100 tight end in the country, so may as well use him finally, right? None of this matters in this case. This is all academic and moot because the guy in charge of the entire operation here, who also insists on being in charge of the offense specifically, has the mental processing capabilities of a freaking chihuahua. This is just who the guy is. We've said that before ad nauseum. It's not going to change no matter how much time elapses or no matter how many more games play out, as some of the boosters have said privately. But that's been some of what they've told me when I've gone with some of my stricter criticisms and some of my meaner comments about Scott Strickland not pulling the trigger. The boosters have come to me, message me privately. No, I'm not naming names, but the response has been, we got to let more play out. This is what happens when you let things play out. We say the same damn things over and over and over again. So, with that said, now let's talk about some of the play calls that the boosters and fans alike agree were pretty rough. All right, we're going to talk about 3 of them in particular because there were a bunch of them that we could nitpick. 3 in particular stood out to me. 8:02 to go, quarter number 2, 3rd and 12. Throw the ball to Jaden Baugh, 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's got 2 blockers to try to stave off 4 Aggie defenders. Predictably enough, he loses 3 yards. He catches the ball 4 yards behind the line. He manages to recover one of those yards, and he's tackled for a loss of 3. Why? What are we doing? You are not going to tell me in any seriousness that you expect 2 Florida blockers to push away 4 Aggie defenders and Jaden Baugh to not only get the 12 yards needed for the first down, but the additional 4 that you've put him behind the line of scrimmage on. That's nonsensical. That is completely irrational. It does not stand up to any reasonable debate. Then you have similar timestamp, 3rd quarter, 8 minutes to go. Ball's on the A&M 33. You're driving. 3rd and 8. And we run Jaden Baugh for 6 yards. Thinking behind this, some people say is, well, 4 down territory here. So you're calling the 3rd and 8 run, knowing you're going to go for it on 4th down. So the goal is to get 6 yards or 5 yards or even 4 yards. Set up a manageable 4th down and short. And look, if he gets 8 yards in the first down, great. Don't have to go for it on 4th down. But the thinking is to set up a 4th and short. So Jaden Baugh does that. He gets you 6 yards, set up a 4th and 2. What happens? Florida then kicks a field goal, completely defying the logic of going for a run on 3rd and 8 in that situation. It does not make any sense at all. And then you've got the 4th quarter, 13:33 to go, 24-17 ball game. Ball is a little inside A&M territory. It's on their 49. It's 3rd and 6, and we run the ball for no gain. We have a 5-star quarterback, Gatorade National Player of the Year, 2 of the best freshman receivers in the country. To be fair, the offensive line is struggling. Have you, Billy Napier, ever heard of a slant? No, of course you haven't. Of course you haven't. You've never heard of the idea of having a running back come in to chip Cassius Howell, so why would you have ever heard of a slant? And none of this is to even touch on the end of first half situation. That was a complete nightmare. Could not have possibly gone any worse, where you burn 1 minute and 10 seconds of the 1:43 or so left in the half to gain 12 yards and then just basically wave the white flag on the drive. It's malpractice. Do you guys think I'm being harsh by saying Napier has the mental capacity of a chihuahua? I want to hear your explanation for that. Drop it in the comments if you disagree with me. I want to hear your explanation for any of those play calls or the end of the half situation. If you have a defense for any of those 4 situations, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. That's what I've got for the negatives, because that's really all there was to it. So, Adrian, anything else to add on top of that?
No. All of those, and we haven't even gotten to the end of the game, obviously. But
yeah, that's right. Forgot about that too.
All of those we could talk about it then later on in the coaching grades and stuff like that. But that's just Billy Napier. I mean, he is honestly the worst game day coach that we've ever had here since I've been following Florida football. I mean, I don't know if in the 1930s there was a really bad game day coach. But Billy Napier is the worst since I've been following this since 1990, basically. Just awful.
You followed in the 80s, too. You were there for Pell and Galen Hall.
A little bit, but I was more a Hurricane fan back then. Remember, I grew up in Miami. But, it all comes back down to what people have been saying, right? Is it the fact that since he's calling plays and he's all caught up in the offense, can he just not take a step back and take a look at the big picture? Is that the issue with him? And obviously something's the problem, because we've seen this for 4 years now. Just awful game day managing, awful play calling that makes you want to scratch your head. Sometimes it looks like he's using analytics to make a decision, and then sometimes it looks like he doesn't. For some things that he did the analytics for, then for the same situation will come up in another game and he'll do the exact opposite, even though he used the analytics. He's just a mess. He's just an absolute mess when it comes to managing a game, calling a ball game, having a feel for it. He's just a disaster, man.
He has
Just
no
bad.
identity. He has no
None.
identity to what he does. If he's going to be analytics Billy, okay, fine. Use the analytics all the time. That's what Lane Kiffin does. If you're going to be cool, calm, and collected Billy, and you're just going to be easy going and just be smart and not do anything to hurt yourself and calm the seas, then fine. Then call the game like that 100% of the time. If you're going to be a jerk like Steve Spurrier, but a jerk who wins and then runs his mouth after, then you do that all the time. Steve Spurrier never took a day off from throwing jabs at FSU or Tennessee or Auburn or Georgia. He did it all the time. That's who he was. He didn't vacillate between these 45 different personalities that Billy Napier seems to be trying out on the fly, right? Or 45, yeah, because he's coached 44 games. So 44 different personalities that Billy Napier has been experimenting with at our expense, by the way, with him making more than $7 million per year to do this experimentation. So I'm out of words, man. Like, we've done this so many times before. That score, again, looking down at that score below you if you're watching on YouTube, that does not come close to encapsulating the futility of this offense for 3/4 of the 4 in the game. You score 3 points in the second, third, and fourth quarters combined. You have the pre-scripted first drive of the game. That's great. You have one more drive that gets you a touchdown. Cool. That's it. Florida couldn't do anything offensively after that second touchdown drive. We ran through the drive chart. It gets uglier and uglier the more you look into it. We talked about, again, the offensive line struggles. There was nothing done to adapt. There's nothing. You don't have a tight end slide over. You don't tell Barber, hey, you're getting beat off the outside. Maybe you can try to push the guy inside. Maybe try to push Cassius Howell inside. So maybe your guard can help you out because you have no help in the empty formation coming off the outside, right? So maybe you have a fighting chance to have a guard or Jake Slaughter maybe pull and help you out. There's nothing. Cassius Howell and even Torian York a couple of times just roasting him like a Thanksgiving turkey almost every single time to the outside. There's no adaptation. There's no adjustments. There's just nothing different done as the same results keep piling up over and over and over again. And you know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Billy Napier is indeed certifiably, clinically, verifiably insane at this point. We don't have any data that tells us any different. All right, so that's that. The defense did not quit, but it did appear to break. And you talked about it, Adrian, how it's hard to play defense for Florida. The first thing I'm going to say to that is, yes, it is hard to play defense. It's also hard for the other guys to play defense too. That works both ways. Didn't seem too hard for A&M because Florida's offense was terrible again, but that's neither here nor there. Florida defense did not quit, but it did break. Does this seem to you like it is the start of a complete unraveling for Florida's defense, or do you think that they will at least hold this level of success, if you can call it that, the rest of the way?
You know, the defense went through like a 3-stage process here in this ball game. The first stage was getting cooked, right, by this Texas A&M offense here in the first quarter. All right. Then they settled in, though. Combination of they settled in and maybe Texas A&M took their foot off the accelerator a little bit. But I think that the defense settled in. And let's face it, Marcel Reed is an inaccurate quarterback, all right? He's inconsistent, especially throwing the long ball. He missed a couple of guys in this game himself also. So you had those two phases. But then the third phase, okay, and this is the one that I think has a possibility to linger moving forward. The third phase was Billy Napier. Billy Napier, I think, just may have broken this defense, Neal. Okay? Let me explain. When Billy makes that decision, that unbelievable decision to go for it on 4th and 6 from the Texas A&M 49 with I got it right here. With 12 minutes and 53 seconds left on the clock, still down 7, still in the ball game. The previous 3 or 4 Texas A&M drives went nowhere. At that time, the game was a defensive battle. Texas A&M was playing just about as shaky on offense as Florida was. Okay, you got a chance to pin him deep, man. And he goes for it on 4th and 6. Obviously, doesn't get it. Turns the ball over on downs. Texas A&M takes over at the 49. They proceed to go on a 13-play, 50-yard drive, 12 running plays, 1 passing plays, take 8 minutes and 9 seconds off the clock, touchdown, ball game. Texas A&M gets the ball back, okay, after DJ gets strip sacked. Texas A&M gets the ball back, final drive of the game basically, 7 plays, 6 run to E.J. Smith of all people, little salt in that wound, right? Little salt.
Yep.
Okay, and that ends in a field goal. Okay, so Billy is the one who ends up breaking this defense finally. I think the defense finally said, we give up, man. After you did that to us, we give up.
I was going to give more credit than that. I don't think that they gave up. I just think that they broke. The straw that broke the camel's back was delivered on top of the pile.
That's a combination. Sure, definitely a combination. But imagine if Billy had Putton there and Doman pins him inside the 10, okay? Yeah. And now that defense comes out juiced, man. Let's 3 and out him here, get a short field. That game, the complexion of that game is completely different, obviously. So, yeah, man, I mean, listen, this defense hasn't been run on like that all day. That's why I also feel that they kind of just were deflated because 12 run plays out of 13 to take 8 minutes off the clock, that hasn't happened to this defense all year. So I think Billy broke them, man. We'll see what happens next week. It's going to be very telling. It's going to be very telling.
Yeah, we're not going to give too much away about our Mississippi State preview, but long story short, just suffice to say, if you F around, you could lose to Mississippi State. Like, they are no longer that 2-10 joke that they were a year ago, which Florida was in a dogfight with, by the way, for quite a while against that 2-10 team. But they're a lot better than that now, so you better be ready. Florida does open as a 9.5-point favorite against the Bulldogs. All right, so we've talked about Billy Napier's various shortcomings in no shortage of detail, not only today, but in previous podcasts as well. The question now is, why in the holy hell does he still have a job at Florida, especially coming on the heels of a bit of breaking news now, James Franklin getting fired from Penn State and him being owed in the ballpark of $50 million. So before we get into any more analysis, let me just run off some numbers here. The largest buyouts in college football in 2025. Some of these coaches obviously not even close to the hot seat, but we're just going to talk about pure buyout numbers should they get fired without cause. Kirby Smart at Georgia leads the way, $105.1 million. He is clearly number one by a wide margin. No one else even close. The closest to him, Ryan Day at Ohio State, would be owed $70.9 million should he be fired. Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, number 3, at $60.8 million. And now we start to get close to the cluster here. Steve Sarkisian at Texas, owed $60.3 million. Dabo Sweeney at Clemson checks in at number 5 on this list with $60 million even. Mike Norvell at FSU, the first guy on this list that we think is even on the warm seat. I guess maybe you could say DeBoer was kind of on the hot seat with the loss to FSU, but they haven't lost since, so he's off the hot seat for now. Mike Norvell at FSU, $58.7 million, the 6th highest buyout in college football. Wow. Number 7, Dan Lanning at Oregon would be owed $56.7 million. Kurt Cignetti at Indiana also owed $56.7 million. I think there's a matter of just a few $100, so he's 8th behind Dan Lanning by a few $100. $56.7 million also for our purposes here. Brian Kelly at LSU is number 9 with $53.3 million owed to him. And James Franklin checked in at number 10 on this list with $49.7 million coming his way for being fired by Penn State. This will be delivered to him because that axe was dropped on his head. And then Outside the top 25, we have Billy Napier being owed 19.38. Should he be fired at the end of this season? So I don't want to hear a syllable about how the buyout is expensive. I don't even want to hear a breath being taken with that thought process going to be what gets pushed out of someone's throat. I don't want to hear it for a nanosecond. That is garbage. That is complete and utter garbage of an argument, because Penn State just pulled that trigger with a guy who won the Big Ten and took them not only to the college football playoff, to the national semifinals, where they were in that game. They could have won that game against Notre Dame last year and been one game short of a national title. They fired him. They pulled that trigger. So with that said, why the hell is Billy Napier here? I will let you surmise first. Adrian, why is he still here?
Before I answer that, let me ask you something. Why would you fire a coach now? Why would you fire Billy now if you're the AD?
I will answer that, and it's because I cannot believe that the offense with Russ Callaway at the controls of it looks any worse than it does right now with Billy Napier.
Okay. But so then the big picture is you're doing it also because the fans demand it, right? Isn't that your ultimate client is the fans?
Yes, I have a slightly different reasoning than I would think most people do. It's because I simply want to make a bowl game, and I think the offense can improve with Russ Callaway at the controls.
Fine, but you're a fan.
Sure.
So that's what you want as a fan.
I'm a booster. I'm a very low level booster.
So that's
low level. I am not a Hugh Hathcock by any stretch of the imagination, but yes, I do pay booster fees.
So that's what I'm saying. Okay, you make the move now somewhat to placate your fan base, because your fan base has already decided on Billy Napier. Okay? So why is Billy still the head coach of the Gators, right? Well, I think they don't care about the fan base, man. They don't care what you think.
I know they don't.
And I'll give you my receipts why. What's that GM dude who trolled the fan base last week?
Jacob LaFrance.
LaFrench?
Jacob LaFrance.
Okay, LaFrench. So Frenchie over here, okay, he thinks he's got the green light to troll a fan base after one win. A fan base that, at that time, 14, 15 straight sellout of your boss's crap product.
Yep.
Okay? That fan base, you decide to troll. That comes from the top, Neal. That comes from somewhere in that organizational chart, somewhere at the top. Frenchie thought he had the carte blanche to troll a fan base.
Frenchie.
Okay? And that comes from the top. And it trickles its way down to Frenchie, and he thinks he could go ahead and send a little smart-ass tweet, show his ass, and troll the Florida fan base. Did he end up deleting it, or is it still up there?
It took him 24 hours or 22 hours, but he finally did.
Okay. So that told me right there, Frenchie's actions told me that the people in that organization could give a crap what the fans think. So that is why Billy Napier is still your head coach.
Yeah, that's pretty pathetic. I don't have any data to dispute you on that. I think that it's twofold. Number one, deep down in my heart of hearts, I have this on good authority. The next loss for Billy Napier will, I do not know publicly or privately, but the next loss, good night. I don't know that decision is actually going to be made if Florida wins out, but you and I both know that's not going to happen because, as we talked about in the last show, Billy Napier has never won more than 2 SEC games in a row, and he has a string of them to finish out the season before FSU. So that's not going to happen. He's going to get fired at the end of the year. I will also add, I personally do not care when it happens in the long term. I would very much like to make a bowl game this year. I would very much like the next coach to retain some of the talent that Billy Napier has amassed here, because there are some ballers on both sides of the ball. I mean, I would love to get Miles Graham back, for example. I would love to get Aaron Childs back, for example. I would love to get Cormani McClain back for another year at Florida. And I would love to get some of the young receivers back. Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, not to mention, I would love to give DJ Lagway a complete fresh start under a new coach and a new offensive system next year. So, with that said, if they're going to stay, the new coach could come in and maybe, I don't know, do some recruiting of the current roster. They would get extra practices for that bowl game. Now, if the new coach can't retain any of the talent, it doesn't matter. They're just going to be playing a scrimmage, and who cares? But I'm going to assume somewhat positively here that the next coach could retain some of the talent, and thus the bowl game that they would get the chances to be part of and the practices for would help them to some tiny extent. There is a small part of me, I don't want to say small, there is a noticeable part of me, a non-insignificant part of me that thinks that Scott Strickland is doing this on purpose, just to mess with the fan base, because the end result will be the same. Like I said, Napier's going to get fired. The move is going to get made. I have that on very good authority. So I think there is a non-zero chance, an actual legitimate chance that Scott Strickland is doing this just to throw double birdies at the fan base in the meantime to piss them off. Yeah. Would I bet my life savings on this? No, I would not bet my life savings. I'm not that confident. I think that there is probably somewhere between a 20 to a 45 or so % chance that there is at least a dollop of that mixed into this cocktail of reasons for why Billy Napier has not been fired yet, because the results are so clear and obvious. And then the question becomes, well, Penn State didn't care about this portal issue, right? UCLA didn't care about this portal issue. Virginia Tech didn't care about this portal issue. UAB didn't care about, and on and on and on. Arkansas didn't care about, right? So what all these schools saw was that their coach continuing to coach their team was going to be worse of an end result than handing the keys over to someone else on an interim basis. And as we said a few pods ago, Ron Roberts has been a head football coach of a Division I college football team before. Now, it was at Southeastern Louisiana in the small, tiny town of Hammond, Louisiana, which the only reason I even know where that is because when I saw my boy James Houston play for Jackson State, I spent the night here. Shout out my boy James. Shout out there to him now on the Cowboys. A little outdated with a Lions jersey, but it's what I have, and I'm a Giants fan, so I can't wear Cowboy stuff. But anyway, I only know where Hammond is because that was halfway between Jackson and New Orleans where I flew in and out of. Otherwise, there's nothing significant about Hammond, Louisiana. So not exactly big-time college football, but it is nonetheless a D1 college. Ron Roberts has been a head coach before, so it's not like it's completely uncharted territory for him. And like I said to you a few minutes ago, I refuse to believe that taking the handcuffs of Billy Napier off of Russ Callaway would result in a worse offensive product for DJ Lagway and his young batch of receivers. So I don't think either option is great. Letting Napier continue on the rest of the way versus letting Callaway just take control of the offense. But one we know is going to continue to result in bad things happening, and the other is unknown with a potentially decent ceiling. We don't know how good the offense could be. Why not try it when the alternative is known to be garbage?
Not only that, but I think you said the key thing there a little bit earlier, that those other schools made the decision because it was going to be too detrimental to their program to keep the coach than it is to fire him at this moment.
Right.
And that's where
damage.
Exactly. And what does that also mean? On Saturday, okay, in Penn State and at Florida, when the offenses go 3 and out in the first drive, what's going to happen at Florida?
They're going to get booed. They're going to get booed.
Florida, they're going to get booed. What's going to happen at Penn State if Franklin hadn't gotten fired? Same thing.
Yeah.
What's going to happen this Saturday? Nothing. They're not going to boo. Okay.
I mean, they might, but it'll be significantly lower volume.
Significantly less because they made the move. They know it's an intern coach, and they're already looking ahead. At least there's something to go to the stadium and you have some type of optimism, at least for the future. There's
so then let me
no
turn that
more
back
optimism.
around to you. Should Florida then not use the placate the fan base reasoning as a legitimate one? Because the boos are going to cascade down upon the players, which could impact morale, could impact their level of giving an F, right? Which could impact the wins and losses on the field. Should that not be something that's legitimately considered you know that's coming?
Of course. Of course. I mean, Billy walking off the field at halftime Saturday. What do you think some of those nice fans by the tunnel are going to be yelling at Billy?
Yeah.
Huh? They're going to be yelling some nasty stuff, okay? That negative vibe, that dark cloud that hangs over your program now, once the fan base has made up their mind on a coach, you need to make the move, okay? That's it.
But the inmates running the asylum is a dangerous precedent, some of the boosters say.
4 years, man. 4 years this guy has had. What more is there to judge him on? Okay? What more is there to judge him on? You've had everything you need to know. So, like I said, it's going to get ugly. And the ironic part is that Mississippi State, okay, has a chance to do what they did to Ron Zook, okay?
21 years ago.
Mississippi State was the ones who took care of Ron Zook back in the day. Yeah. They got a chance to take care of Billy. Because if he loses to Mississippi State, I think they have no choice.
Like I said, I do have it on good authority that the next loss is the guillotine drop. I said before the A&M game that Napier had to finish 8-4. The caveat being the one additional loss. This is when Florida was 2-3 after beating Texas. That if there was going to be an additional loss and Napier was going to survive it, it could not be what one booster I'm reading off it. My text says embarrasses the program. So what he meant by that, and we had a phone call after that, so not all of it's on in writing, but essentially a massive loss by like 50 points, or you lose the anti-shutout streak, or you would lose to Mississippi State at home for homecoming. Mississippi State, I know, has a better record than last year, but you still can't lose to them, especially as a 10-point favorite, a 9.5-point favorite. So that would be the kind of loss that it would have taken for 8-4 not to be good enough. That didn't happen. The A&M loss did not meet that threshold. So he could still be back if he literally wins out. But this is it now. There's no more mulligans. There's no more, he lost that one game, but he won all the others. Nope, does not matter. 7-5 will not do it. 8-4, or he's gone. So I will say that. However, to your point, it is year 4. Year 3, we thought we had all the data we needed. You start out with the blowout loss to Miami. 2 weeks later, A&M comes in and terminates your souls in the swamp. Then you have the Tennessee debacle, which coaching directly leads to that loss. And then you lose to Georgia because Lagley gets hurt. Texas beats you. Okay, those losses probably don't move the needle. But again, you've got the data you need. You had the case well in hand before Georgia and Texas happened. And then you have the 2 fluke wins over LSU and Ole Miss. You beat a terrible FSU team, and you beat a Tulane team with half of its roster in the transfer portal already. So 4-game winning streak doesn't really seem that impressive when you consider the implications or the factors that led to each of those wins. All right, so before we wrap this up and put a bow on the latest form of Billy Napier's stupidity, let's talk about something that I found very curious last offseason. Well, Billy Napier is parting ways with assistants who slow him down, some people say. He's making moves to better this program. So, okay, let's talk about that. Corey Raymond goes on, and this is not just this past offseason, but the last 2 off seasons, really. Corey Raymond goes to LSU. Will Harris leaves definitely on his own accord. Florida did want to keep him. Will Harris goes to Miami. Jay Bateman and Coach Chaos, a.k.a. Sean Spencer, go to Texas A&M. Adrian, how did Florida do against those teams when they met this year? All 3 of them.
L's.
Lost to Miami by 3 touchdowns. Lost to LSU by 10. I don't think the game was it was a close game, but the offense's ineptitude was so bad in that game that 20-10 does not do the ugliness of that game justice. And then this one, another one where you lose by 3 scores. So you got 2 3-score losses and a third loss in which you throw 5 interceptions. Your quarterback throws 5 interceptions. So who made out better? Was it Billy Napier or was it his former assistants who went to other places and wound up beating his face in?
Yeah, that's pretty obvious, man. That's pretty obvious. And sometimes you gotta look at the man in the mirror, man. You keep blaming other people, and sometimes you point your finger at somebody. There's like the old saying says, there's 3 fingers being pointed right back at you. So
I have one more question. I wasn't planning to ask this, but it's kind of off the cuff. But Adrian, where do you think Billy Napier will next find himself employed?
ooh. No,
I just thought of that question.
if he wants to be a head coach, it would be in a non-power 4. It'll be one of the group of 5s.
You think he'll get an FBS job?
Yeah, no, he won't get a power 4 job.
Okay.
As a head coach, I don't think so.
But I'm saying you don't think he would go to the FCS. You think he would get a group of 5 job. Okay.
He could get a group of 5 head coaching job. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you have head coaching experience in the SEC, Toledo's going to hire you to be their head coach.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, but his career will forever be stained, I think.
Yeah.
For what's happened with DJ Lagway, I think that's going to stain him. DJ Lagway's lack of progression and indeed regression for whatever reason, and lack of development to this stage where he can't, read a basic zone defense. That's going to be on Billy. That's going to be on Billy, and that's going to be with him for the rest of his career.
You talk about DJ Lagway's regression. Obviously, that's a huge piece of it. I go to the fact that this is not even the first generational talented quarterback he's ever had at Florida.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson was a top 5 pick. I don't want to hear anything about how Richardson wasn't ready for the NFL. No fooling, he wasn't ready for the NFL. Why do you think that was? Why do you think there were NFL scouts talking about the offense at Florida holding him back? This freak of nature, this ridiculous natural talent of an athlete being held back, still going number 4 overall, despite not that great of a tape at Florida. Billy Napier has not 1, but 2 generational talented quarterback at Florida, and he barely even has a bowl appearance to show for it.
I would even add that he can't even be an OC in a Power 4 school.
Hell no.
I don't see no Power 4 school hiring him as an OC. Power 4 school job, if he wants to stay in the Power 4s, it'll be as a wide receiver coach like what he was at Alabama.
Or
that's about it.
I was going to say, he could be an analyst.
He could always do that. The rehabilitation program. Maybe he'll go to Georgia and be an analyst there.
That would be fitting, wouldn't it? That would be very, very fitting. Kirby Smart just asked him, what did you do with Florida in this situation? Okay, cool. We'll do the exact opposite of that. That's how they're going to have success with Napier running anything at UGA. All right. Yeah. This was disgusting. Let's just be done with this. Final word. We're going to talk play of the game, player of the game, and grades. So play of the game for you, Adrian, was what?
Well, the play of the game, I'm just going to stick with the 4th and 6 at the A&M 49, 12:53 on the clock. Billy decides to go for it. That was the ball game. That was the play of the game. Billy's decision to go for it on 4th and 6 with 12 minutes and 53 seconds left, down 7.
Yeah, I mean, I also said earlier, this score, 34-17, the game was uglier than the score looks, but this game was also closer for most of it than this final score indicates, too. It's 24-17 at that point with, as you said, 13 minutes to go in the game. Florida's driving. They have a chance to tie it in the 4th quarter, not with Napier, realistically. But, yeah, so that's that. I'm going to go with the entire end of half sequence at the end of the first half. I mean, what are we doing with that? I don't even have words for that, man. Like, I understand the thinking. You don't want to leave A&M with time, right? I get that part of it. But the answer is not to bleed off the clock so neither team has time to score either. That's what Napier did.
You're giving Napier way too much credit, man. I don't think keeping Not time on the clock for A&M ever came into their thought process.
I'm
I
pretty
think they
sure
were
it
just
did.
a disorganized mess, man.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't think it did either, but I'm giving what few supporters he has left the benefit of the doubt and just
yeah.
tossing that out there as a possibility. I'm with you. I don't think that, like I said, I'll say it again. I believe Napier has the mental processing capabilities of a chihuahua. So I don't think so I don't think that came to his mind either. But I am saying, for argument's sake, that if that does come to his mind, the answer is not to make sure that neither team has a chance to score. So that was just a killer because Florida had the ball in great field position. They start that drive at their own 41. You're 20 yards away from field goal range, and you just have nothing to show for it. 5 plays, 11 yards, and you wind up punting it. Just I don't know. So that was a killer. And the game at that point was a 7-point game. It was 21-14. You could have tied it going into half. But at that point, I just thought, all right, this is done. We're going to find a way to lose. And if we don't find one, we're going to invent one. That's when I just knew, all right, forget it. So player of the game for you is who?
I mean, talk about slim pickings, right? The referee blowing the whistle to end the game, maybe. But I went with Aaron Childs. And
you can go with an Aggie, by the way. You are allowed to go with the other team.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Yeah. The other team?
Because mine is pretty obvious based on that.
Yeah, obviously the guy who – was it you who posted his visit to Florida a couple years ago? Somebody did on X. Somebody posted his visit to Florida. But, yeah, Cassius Howe, we talked about him when we highlighted it last week. We talked about how he was a battle down to Florida and Texas A&M. Yeah. I remember back – it was only a couple years ago, not even that, right? When it's all said and done, it was like a year and 8 months ago, basically. I remember that he was leaning Florida, you know, but, you know, Texas A&M came in there and took him. So, and whew, that one hurt. That guy looked like a beast out there, man. Just a monster. Just dominated.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Cassius Howell, too. We're just going to agree on that. He only had 1 sack, but man, was there a lot of ugly tape for Austin Barber in this game that Cassius Howell was directly responsible for. I think from watching the game a second time this morning, I think that Austin Barber got away with quite a few holds. They did call 1 on him. I think he got away with at least 4 more, potentially 5 or 6 more that did not get called. A&M fans were blowing me up on Twitter about that. And I took a look at the film, and I'm like, oh, I kind of agree with those Aggie guys. That looked a little dicey. Next play, oh, there's a jersey tug. You grab the jersey and you yank it back like that. That's not good. So, yeah, Cassius Howell causing all kinds of problems for Florida. He gets my player of the game. All right.
You know, Neal, we always make the comment when someone's balling out. We always say, man, they're making themselves some money in the draft.
Yep.
The opposite could be true, too.
Barber.
Austin Barber is losing some money. Every day he's going out there right now.
I feel for him. I
Sorry,
do.
Bro.
I don't – I know him somewhat. He's a good dude.
I'm sure he is.
Rough. It's rough.
I saw
really
some
rough
mocks that had him first round before the season.
I mean, look, he's going to have a few more games to get himself back into scouts' good graces. But, man, if the draft were tomorrow, he would be – 4th or 5th round if he's lucky.
Middle round.
So I hope he gets it back together. I hope will benefit from not having to face Cassius Howell anymore. But that was rough. So that was my player of the game. All right. Grades. Adrian, you first.
Offense, I got him on a D-. You know, Neal, you talked about after those first 2 touchdown drives, those first 2 drives out of 3 in which they got a touchdown. They got 150 yards in those 2 touchdown drives. The rest of the game, Florida only managed 96 total yards of offense the rest of the game after that second touchdown drive. That's
pitiful. Yeah.
That's wild, man. So I got D-. It's not an F just because of those first 2 drives. I tweeted, it felt like one of those – you remember the last time that you had a really bad fever? You feel like you're almost like delusional?
Yeah.
I thought the first 2 drives that I was suffering from like a fever. That was just like a delusion, man. But unfortunately, I was not. Anyways, that's offense. Defense, I got them down for a C minus. Just because, 34 could have been 50, I guess. I don't know. But they had 0 sacks, 0 tackles for loss. Texas A&M did not have a negative play, not one the entire ball game. It's probably an F, but I'll say C minus, borderline D. Special teams, I gave them a C plus. Nothing really spectacular on special teams anywhere that I could remember. They had the one bad face mask penalty on, I believe it was Sharif Denson. That ended up being like a 40-yard penalty when it was all said and done from where Texas A&M would have had the ball. Elko, unlike Billy, always on top of his game management things, he could have taken the ball from where it was spotted, gotten 15 yards from there, and go at it. He made us re-kick it, and ended up being a difference of about 40 yards, okay? So because of that, I put him down at a C plus on special teams. Coaching, I got for that F that we like to do, that F. For everything we've already talked about, I'm not going to regurgitate it, And then overall is a that F. Back to coaching. I said I wasn't going to regurgitate it, but that decision, I remember putting on X. Billy Napier could have actually stripped naked, streaked down the 50-yard line, butt naked, and still that would have been a better decision than going for it on 4th and 6 in that situation. But yeah, F's all the way around. It's just the usual Billy Napier type of ball game, pretty much. He can't put 2 games together, man. Really hard for him to put 2 good games together.
You talk about the ridiculousness of Billy Napier stripping naked and running on the field. I almost wish I wish he did. I genuinely wish he did that, because then you have reason to fire him for a cause.
It still would have been a better decision to do that than go for it on 4th down.
It would have been better for the team and the program overall, because it gets him the holy hell out of here. And the last time that a Florida coach embarrassed the program with death threats nonsense, he got fired immediately for that with a reduced buyout. So there is a part of me that, for as ridiculous as that sounds, that actually would have been a net positive for the Florida program. Clearly a net positive with very little negativity. Florida would have been flagged for a 15-yard penalty. You want to play this ridiculousness and play it out a little bit? Florida would have gotten 15-yard penalty. Napier would have been ejected from the game. That's a plus, right? His grubby paws are off the operation. That's great.
And then we would have punted
him for cause. So that's actually a very helpful thing that could have happened.
Because then they would have been forced to punt, because he would have gotten a 15-yard penalty for streaking naked.
21.
Streaking naked, 15. Imagine the ref calling it. We got unsportsmanlike conduct on Florida side. Coach streaking naked. That would have been awesome, man. But at least then, once Billy would have been taken off the field by like stadium security, I guess then Rob Roberts would have made the decision to punt. So it would have worked out good, man. We might have won the game.
This is the depths that we're forced to sink to. This is where we have to go to keep the all kinds of weather forecasts entertaining. It gets boring to talk about Napier doing stupid stuff every single week. This is how we keep things light and entertaining. The fact that we're seriously entertaining that idea as insanely ridiculous and ludicrous as it is, that's the depths that we're forced to sink to in order to keep this stuff interesting. All right, I'll give mine, and then we'll get out of here.
Go for it.
I'm still – yeah, all right. We'll go quick. Offense, C minus. It's a passing grade. It's actually higher than you gave. I think you gave it B minus. It's a passing grade. I think a lot of it is just hampered by the coaches. I like the idea of getting Amir Jackson in there, but again, that's probably part of the coaching grade, which we're going to get to in a second. But yeah, I mean, the offense did its job more or less. They moved the ball down the field those first 2 drives. That was great. Finished the night with 319 against a pretty good A&M defense. So C minus. Defense. They're not going to get an F because they did band together in the last last couple quarters of the game after getting burnt like toast the first quarter on the first few drives, but they're going to get another. I'll give them a C minus also. A&M putting up 417 yards of offense does not make you feel good. But then you realize again that Florida does not have Caleb Banks. They don't have Aaron Gates. And then, like you said, the head coach is just actively making things harder for them at every possible turn. So they finally wound up breaking down the stretch. But they played well enough to win this game. Despite the 34 points and 417 yards, the game tape shows they played well enough to win this game. Special teams. I mean, Tommy Doman didn't have a terrible game, but he also didn't have a fantastic game. I mean, a couple of his punts came off a little weird, but he also did have a couple of pins that looked good off the foot. So call it a neutral. The field goal actually was executed despite being fed laces to Trey Smack. That I think was more the hole than the snap when I watch it again, but nonetheless, execution there not perfect. I'll give this special teams a C minus also. So actually C minuses across the board there. And coaching is going to get a flat F. That F. The single digit F. How you don't do anything to help out Austin Barber. How you completely butcher that end of half sequence. How you have those 3 different third and longs where you have the 2 running plays to Baugh that don't get the first down, one of which you kick a field goal after despite common sense telling you ran the ball to go for it on 4th down. The other one you got stuffed on. And then the 3rd and billion yards to go screen pass in which Vernell Brown gets stripped. Any and all of this just grotesque showing from Florida's coaching staff. So they won't get a 0 because the defense, even though they did not look good for a good part of the game, I think they did show some resolve down the stretch. They did do their jobs for most of it, but this was just a disgusting, disgusting game. Overall grade, did you give a 0 to 100 overall grade, Adrian?
I gave an F, so I guess I'll just give a...
You gotta give a number, so
I'll give a 30. How about that, 30?
Yeah, okay, that's about right. So I gave 3 C minuses and then that F. I'll give them... I'll be more positive to you. I'll give them about a 45, 42 maybe. It's an F. There were some positives. It's like if you were to turn this grade, or if you were to turn this paper in, the professor would have marked a few things right and said, yeah, that's good. I liked that answer. That was a good answer there. Overall, you don't know what the hell you're doing. So just a complete and utter failure on the road. Billy Napier now falls to 0-14 against ranked opponents. I actually got a message from Dustin right now. His idea is to give them a 44 grade, 1 for every game that Napier has forced us to watch as garbage. I like that. I'll give him a 44. Thank you, Dustin. And speaking of Dustin, he also runs our CFB model. Go to patreon.com/CFB forecaster. The model is batting a little bit over 66.6%, which is 2 out of 3. Model is eclipsing that 2 out of 3 mark. So good enough to win you some money. Go ahead and check it out. Patreon.com/CFB forecaster. Adrian, any final words or parting shots for our dead man walking coach?
Yeah, one last parting shot for him, man, because believe it or not, there's still a little bit of a Billy crowd out there every now and then. And one of the things that's coming up now, and we talked about it a little bit last week, was the narrative now being spun about the schedule again and stuff like that. One last thought on that schedule. First of all, USF, okay, USF. And then the last thought on that schedule, we have 4 losses? Every one of those losses is against a head coach that was hired at the school they're at the same time as Billy or after Billy. Okay? LSU and Miami, same time as Billy. Golich and Elko just 2 years in. And they all beat Billy. So
I'll beat them bad. I'll beat them by double, except for USF. I'll beat them by double digits.
Yep. That's my parting thought, Neal.
That is disgusting. Well, look, in all kinds of weather, we'll all stick together for FLORIDA. We're not going anywhere. In fact, we are going to the swamp together. We're going to force each other to sit there and watch the game against Mississippi State. I'm sure that's going to go swimmingly. There won't be anything miserable about that game. But yeah, the Gators are One day going to be better, but until then, we're just going to have to sit there and keep breaking down the same things going wrong on a continuous loop, almost like the now dearly departed app Vine, just continuing to come at us with no break, no deviation, no variation, just happening over and over again. So, basketball season's coming up soon. Gator Diamond Pod on Twitter for putting out some great stuff on the fall practices. Again, that's at Gator Diamond Pod. Adrian, you can find at ADNDEL. You can follow his co host, Chris Urich, on Twitter as well at Chris Urich. By myself, Neal Shulman, at All Kinds Weather on Twitter and Instagram. And we'll hope to try to make this content as enjoyable as possible, like we did with with the Napier streaking comment. That's it's about the best we can do. But we'll be breaking down more numbers and giving more analysis between now and when Napier gets fired. And oh, what a day that will be. But until then, y'all, go Gators and all kinds of weather. Still doing the Gator chomp, still being proud to be Gators. And we will see you soon talking about Mississippi State.